Lord D stood silently in the center of the Star Chamber, while the other members of the council waved their ballot papers and called for calm. He was having trouble standing but refused the offer of a chair. Dalton Eckhart smiled, as did his witch of a mother, Ravana, both taking great pleasure in this public humiliation, as their protectorate officers surrounded him and snapped the iron manacles around the old man's wrists.
"Order!"
declared one of the clerks of the court, but no one took the slightest notice. Everyone was shouting, and the entire chamber was up on its feet, protesting at what Ravana had just done. Thousands of members were trying to make themselves heard. This, thought the founder as he stood stoically observing the chaos around him, was precisely what the determinists had wanted: the collapse of democracy within the Order. Ravana had spent years waiting to take control. At the point she indicted him, Grandmaster Dorado and the rest of the Draconian Guild had stormed out, refusing to take part in the mutiny, and left her so-called Eschaton martial act to be passed by the others. It was evident that she'd been working on the divisions between the guilds behind his back, insinuating herself with the weaker members of the High Council, creating, for the first time in its long history, disunity within the Order. That fact, more than the irons that were clamped around his wrists, was the thing that disturbed Dee the most. Ravana walked through the jeering crowd that was gathered around him. They moved aside, no one brave enough to challenge her directly until she was staring into his face.
"You're a fool," she said with a smirk, "trapped in the past."
He looked deep into her eyes.
"Better that than a world with no future."
"Take him away,"
she ordered. The founder bowed his head and allowed her masked officers to escort him out through the crowd of protesters. He could only hope Joshua Jones had escaped.